What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sand. And right now, I'm feeling like 100 grand.
You are listening to Inspired Insider with your host, Dr. Jeremy Weisz.
Dr. Jeremy Weisz here, founder of InspiredInsider.com, where I talk with inspirational entrepreneurs and leaders. Today is no different. I have Spencer Hadelman of Advantage Marketing. It's AdvantageMRKT.com. Check it out. And I'm going to formally introduce Spencer in a second. Before I do, I always like to mention, Spencer, other episodes people check out of the podcast. I've had Todd Taskey. Actually, he talks about how he actually helps sell agencies and connects them with private equity. So he helps them get the second bite. He's got the Second Bite podcast. That was a great episode. And he talks about the valuation of agencies and everything around that. We also had a conversation with D. Clevitt, and we geeked out on the software and stuff that we like to use for our businesses. So that was a great episode. If you like to find out what software people are using and what we're using, check it out. And this episode is brought to you by Rise25. At Rise25, we help businesses give to and connect to their Dream 100 relationships. And how do we do that? We help you run your podcast. We're an easy button for a business to launch and run a podcast. And we do execution, the strategy, and accountability around your podcast. Like for me, Spencer, the number one thing in my life is relationships, and always looking ways to give to my best relationships. And I found no better way to do that than to profile the people and companies I most admire and have them on my podcast. So if you have questions about podcasting, go to rise25.com and check it out. I am excited to introduce Spencer Hadelman. He's the founder and CEO of Advantage Marketing, and he's a Chicago-based marketing and media agency that provides digital and traditional media solutions. They do that for notable clients such as the University of California, Berkeley, Hello Kitty, Sand Valley Golf Resort, Monaco Spirit Brands, just to name a few. And in addition to founding Advantage Marketing, he is an investor, and he's invested in multiple companies like Lime Scooters, Arcadia Street Capital, and he even continues to add to the Advantage umbrella with some of the e-commerce company acquisitions, including a watch brand, which he successfully exited, and he taps into his golf marketing skills and personal love for the game. He co-founded the e-commerce golf accessory brand Talon Golf Company. And I think I saw on the internet, Spencer, someone was doing an opening of one of the boxes that you sent them of all the products. And that was cool. So Spencer, thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I love it.
Talk about Advantage Marketing and what you do a little bit.
Well, I think the easiest way to break it down is, at a high level, for what I like to tell people, it's like a full service marketing firm. And I think sometimes just saying the word agency scares people. And, I like to say firm. And when I started the company, I said, a lot of businesses out there need help, and they don't always need it in every area. And so I look at our company almost like there's 3 sub companies within it. And so we have a digital advertising, marketing, performance division, whatever you want to call it. And, so that's a lot of our clients that need help with, search campaigns on Google and other areas and Bing. And we have a big presence with paid social, such as Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, Twitter, etc., TikTok. And then we have which is pretty much that. And then our second sub company or division would be a traditional media division. And so that's your video, television campaigns, ad campaigns, your radio, audio, your direct mail, your print. And our biggest part of that is probably our out-of-home buying. So billboards, transit, anything really that could be viewed as a out-of-home billboard type product. And then our third part is our content creation / creative division. And so even like, to give you an example or like how it's different, like I reference our digital division just now and the social media, like when we do organic social media for clients, that's really coming out of this content creation division. we also do website design there, logo design, branding work, video editing, and email marketing. Anything like of that nature runs out of that division. So we have some clients that use us for everything. And we have some clients that use us just for one of those pillars. But I think what our clients appreciate is that depending on their needs, depending on our strategy, depending on obviously a lot of things, is that I decide to bring in different people who run those divisions or part of it so that they have different experts from different areas of marketing and advertising. And we're not really pushing them only to one vehicle, one channel. We just want results, and we're not married to anything. And I think that's what has allowed us to grow so quickly and allowed us to have success, is because, I think our clients don't believe we're selling them. And, we're a for-profit business, but it's also like when you can have someone from the same company give you a different perspective or play devil's advocate, because they have a different perspective on direct mail campaign versus a LinkedIn campaign or whatever it is. And it's not two different vendors. It's not two different people. It's the same company. It's the same meeting. It's whatever. But I think it leads to really good conversations with our clients. And it also allows internally for people to own different sectors of marketing, but still they don't have mundane days because they get to work with all different types of businesses and verticals, just owning their sectors.
I want to go into in a second, you cut your teeth. You worked at agency before you started your agency, but I like what you said there. Let's talk about that. If you could think of an example where there was a healthy debate, right? You have a client there, and then you have team members there with a healthy debate, kind of saying, hey, no, I think we should do radio. No, I think we should do LinkedIn. Do you remember one of those times where they were just having a healthy debate? And what they were talking about.
Yeah, actually, I could tell you every day there's a healthy debate somewhere. I think in general, it happens often, and I love when it happens. I mean, one that sticks out to me is we had a client who came to us and approached us, and it was really focused only on the paid digital. And once we dug in and learned who their clientele was, I brought, without unknowingly, the client didn't know why I was bringing this person to the meeting, but I brought in our COO, who really runs our traditional division. And, she explained how you can cost effectively really be on television and different options for us to buy television. And this client, it wasn't that they were opposed to it. They just didn't know it could be that affordable. And they also didn't know that, we had the capabilities, because the person who referred us, their specific company was only digital. And because for the person who referred us, their company, it only makes sense to do digital because they're so niche or they're so whatever. And so they came as they're like, we want to do video ads on Instagram and YouTube and whatever. And I was like, okay, well, we can definitely do that. And we should do that, but we should also carve some of the budget, and this is why, and these are the stats behind it, X, Y, Z. And it led to a healthy debate where it's been a very successful multi-year hybrid, multi-channel client of television and digital. And, part of it's educating. Part of it's, like I talked about, not scaring people off where they hear the word agency and they think you have a big price tag. I think that's part of it. I mean, that sticks out to me, though, that there was definitely one example that I
love that, because you came in, a lot of this happens a lot, right? Someone comes in like, I want YouTube ads, or I want Facebook. They're coming in with a modality, and you're looking at, well, how do we get you the best results and solution? There's multiple ways to come to that. And they weren't even thinking, well, okay, we could
Am
do
I
television.
allowed to curse on this podcast?
Sure. Yeah.
So I think like one of the things that makes me different, I won't say great, makes me different, is I don't give a fuck. And I think that at the end of the day, a lot of my clients, once they get to know me and build a relationship, appreciate that I'm in their corner with that attitude. Like the only thing I care about is the success of their business from whatever marketing channel it is. Like, I don't care which channel is successful, because they're not going to keep advertising unless it is successful. And we're not going to keep making money unless they advertise and market. And so I think when people come with their guns blazing, I need you to do this, I need you to do that. I've had people like that don't end up working with me, because then like I come into the attitude where I own the conversation, I own the room 99.9%. So I say, hold on. I want to take a step back. And so I don't even know if we still have this slide in our deck, but I created a slide a few years ago about what makes us different. And so I think a lot of advertising and marketing firms, like they'll like have two circles, right? They're like, we need a marketing strategy that then creates the advertising strategy. And so I think part of it's because I went to an amazing, probably one of the greatest universities of all time, the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I love
Go Badgers, exactly.
For those that don't know, Dr. Weisz went there as well. So I had to give a shout out. And I was an accounting major. I practiced accounting.
I saw that. I was like, what was he thinking?
So at the time I knew I was going to work in basketball marketing, sports marketing, and I wanted a skill set as a degree. So I didn't do the 5-year CPA. But I tell people this every time I do public speaking, especially to high school or college kids. I go, I'm not going to like push you to be an accounting major. I'm not going to but I'll tell you this, like, if I wanted to save the world of starvation, or I wanted like fresh water in Africa, or whatever, like someone is passionate about as a charity, right? Or you want to be an entrepreneur, or you want anything, I'd be like, go be an accounting major. And people are like, wait, what? I don't get that. Like, and I go, okay, because this is what happens. If you want to run a charity and save the world, you got to learn accounting. Accounting is the best skill set you have, because don't go and study something you're even necessarily passionate about unless you have to be certified in it. Like if you're an architect, right? I'm not saying if you want to be an architect, don't study accounting, go study architecture. But like all these other things, the reality is that like your passion is going to be what creates you to want to intern or work and learn stuff that you're never going to learn in a college classroom. Like
it's like a force function to learning stuff that you should, but you probably won't later on.
Yeah, but it's like the best thing I ever did was be an accounting major. I mean, I've won the chief marketer award, best agency, I don't know, like 3 or 4 years in a row. I don't know. I have to ask someone in my company, but the trophies are for my mom. I don't get like a check for it. So, but it's like, all right, like I've done this in my career, and I've taken 2 marketing college courses. Like, it's just like, I learned it from internships and working and a passion and whatever. But the accounting part is like, when I'm analyzing data for digital campaigns, or I'm trying to understand and grow a business or whatever, like that skill set has helped me more than anything.
Unlike you, I wouldn't recommend people with my major, which is biochemistry. So not recommended. But
you can tell people you're a doctor on your Zoom title.
yeah,
That's pretty cool.
well, that's from chiropractic school, but yeah. So
Wait, I don't even know I went on such a tangent. I don't even know where the
no,
original question
I was asking, we were talking about the candor, right? Your candor and just telling people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
That you just tell them what you think, whatever you're looking at the results, not necessarily kind of what their initial thought was, but looking at the results.
Yeah. And again, I think I'm going to lose clients and relationships by my personality and demeanor. And I've made peace with that, because you can't be everything to everyone. Right. But I also think long term, I will be more successful and have a better business and a better career if you're honest and forthright, and you deliver the message in a way where, like, again, like I always give a caveat, like there's no magic bullet in marketing. And I don't know, I have hypotheses, but like if I say, if I had the answer to everything, if I knew everything I was doing and I knew it was 100% going to work, I would not be in this meeting. I would be on a beach with like a pina colada or a margarita, like somewhere, because I made so much money. Like I wouldn't be here. Like I always tell them, I'm like, that's the truth. Like if I knew everything and like that's the truth, I wouldn't be here.
Let me ask you, Spencer. So you cut your teeth in working agency for years before you started your own. What's a learning that you took from working at that other agency that you took into yours?
Well, I mean, there's a lot I learned. I mean, I learned obviously the media buying business. I saw up close the evolution of changing technologies and targeting and reporting and everything like that. And I mean, the biggest thing I learned is clients and people want to be treated like humans and care. And it's not just about what's their budget or what can they spend. And I think I learned a lot of like skills and knowledge and positive experiences from where I previously had worked. But I think when you come in and it's like the sole focus is like, okay, what's our budget? Who are we trying to reach? What are we trying to do? Like, you aren't going to have long-term relationships and success without the human side of it. And I do give a shit about like my clients personally, like as people, like whether it's their personal business or whether they work for a huge company or whatever, like if they're putting their faith in me and like a portion of their job is in performance is dictated by the success. So you have to have a human side of it. You have to have care and conversations that are not so transactional. And
what was the decision like to then go out on your own?
I mean, it was one of those moments where it wasn't even a decision. Like it's like, all right, I'm ready. And I mean the final straw was I had a client reach out to me to say they got it. I won't like say the name of my old agency, but like they got an invoice from the agency and the letters or whatever, and they're like, oh, like it seems like the stuff you're doing for us. And I'm like, yeah, that's the name of our agency I work for. And like it was like they just associated with me or like my team. It wasn't like the agency didn't matter. And I was like, okay, well, like it's that. And I think also like, like growing up, like playing sports, I mean, I was always like pretty good athletically and, excelled, but I also was never the star of any team I ever played on. But I was always the captain. I was always the leader. So I think innately, like in my DNA, like it's like leadership. And I think like my agency, like we started in 2015. We've only had, I want to say like less than 5 people you ever leave the company, and we've built a culture here, and it's even like the people that have left, like they'll still reach out and like, it's like you build a culture of like team. And I always tell people like, I just want to push people to be great. Like, I think it's like,
What are some of the things you do, Spencer, that if someone's listening, they can maybe incorporate from building a culture that feels and acts like a team? What do you do? What are some of the things that you do with the company or the leadership?
I'll tell you one thing. I think I've given every sports analogy of anything I could ever do. I have like, it's funny because like I try to steer people off because I actually, once my employees look at me sometimes like a big teddy bear, but that's okay. I gotta get meaner, I think, sometimes. But every first interview, like I have a very good memory, and I have this one move I do where like I read the resume before the interview. And so they hand me their resume during the interview, and I glance at it for about a half a second, and I throw it off the side of the table in the conference room. And I do that one because I already know everything they put on their resume, because I know the high level stuff that I'm going to ask them about if it was in front of me, right? But I do it to see how they react in a hostile situation. And so that's why I do it. Like, I don't say anything mean or weird. I just see how they react, because like I want to see if we're in a meeting with a client and they get frustrated or upset, or like, how are you going to handle that situation? That's one thing. I mean, again, I think you need a good memory to be able to do that. But if you do, like, it's a really good way to see how, especially when you are hiring younger people, and this Gen Z generation is very difficult in the sense that they're very sensitive. And you want to see how people handle, difficult situations.
What are some of the range of reactions you've gotten?
I've saw someone, I mean, they ended up working here, but I've never seen eyes bulge like like they didn't say anything, but like the eyes, I was like, I wish we had a camera, like, so that like at a happy hour I could just show her this picture of her eyes. Like it was funny though. No, I mean, I think most people just like don't know how to react. But as long as they don't get emotional, like it's going to be okay. And I think, but in terms of creating a culture, I try to make sure that we do events, outings, retreats, stuff like that. And I have like the only rule is like we don't talk about work. We have this year, I mean, I'm a big football fan. We have a very female centric makeup of our workforce. And of that percentage of those female employees, a lot of them, I would say, are not the biggest football fans in terms of like the day-to-day knowledge of teams and players and whatever. And so I did this, I created this pool, like a pick'em pool for the NFL. And so each week, like no spread or anything like that, but each week we do, everyone has to pick the winner or whatever. And the winner of week 1 got a $10 gift card somewhere. And each week it went up by an increment of $10. So by week 18, it was a $180 gift card somewhere. So all you do is win the week. Like, it's not like, and then there was also a first, second, third big prizes for the whole year. And then a last place penalty, which I almost got last place somehow, which I'm not going to discuss. But the feedback I got was like, there are these people in our office that like weren't watching football, and all of a sudden they're watching Monday Night Football to see if they're going to win the tiebreaker because they want their $150 gift card week 15. or whatever it is. And it was like nice because like it's not like, oh, they were coming in and be like, oh, talk to me about the game. It was like they would talk, I would hear them talking with each other. And it was like this like fun little thing where it's like, and again, like maybe it's because I love sports and sports are a big part of my life and whatever that.
Well, you
So,
found a way to kind of gamify and have fun with the office all together in a group.
yeah. And again, like it's not like a pool where it's like, oh, like you guys have to put in your own money. It's like, no, it's just they can only gain. They have nothing to lose. And the feedback I got from people who literally, I think before this year, probably rarely ever outside the Super Bowl have probably watched football games were like, I actually had fun. Like that made the fall fun. And, so it's like, again, does it have to be sports related? No. Could you do like a office bachelor contest or whatever? Like, sure. Like we can do whatever we want, but like, it's like, we were doing our year-end reviews and some of the people were like, okay, like, so football doesn't start again until September. Like, what's the other thing like we can do? Like,
so have you come up with anything yet?
yeah. So I think I got two things in the works. One, I've never done this and I want to do it like a little bit different, but have you ever heard of like people doing like the March Madness auctions?
Mm-mm.
So it's like something where like you kind of draft all, I guess now it's 68 teams or whatever. And if the team, like whichever team covers the spread advances, and let's say like the team advances but doesn't cover the spread, then whoever that team that person then inherits that team. I guess like, like if a one, whatever. So, I was thinking about like us doing a draft where it's like so random and like whatever. And like, instead of just doing like the regular brackets and like, doing like a happy hour draft or something where it's like fun to get together and like do it in the conference room on like a sticky board or like whatever. And then, we're a very large golf agency. We're probably like the number one golf property resort marketers. So we're definitely going to do like a master's pool or something like that and see what we're going to do with that.
I want to talk, get into the golf piece, but when you think back, Spencer, when you first started the agency, it is a leap, right? What are some of those, when you think back, some of those pivotal growth moments that kind of propelled you to the next level, whether it was a hire, whether it was something you did with the company? What were some of those pivotal growth moments in the company?
It's a great question. I could probably give you two that I'll give you one that's like a client one, and I'll give you another that's a looking back on business operations decision one. And I'll start there. It's like when I decided to go on my own and make that decision, I was playing basketball at a gym in Chicago, and it's like the same guys and that usually play pickup same times, and I had developed a good friendship with a guy who's probably about I don't know, 8 years older, maybe 10 years older. He'll say like 4, but it's fine. And I was telling him, he's like, hey, like I actually have an empty personal office in my office. And at the time I was like, okay, well, I won't pay rent. I'll work from home. And this is, again, 2015, right? So he did charge me rent, but it was not a lot. And it allowed me to have a conference room and a kitchen and a printer and internet and whatever. And it was like a big personal office that was like nice. And it was like, it was in the interior of the office, but it was like glass. It wasn't like I'm looking at drywall all day. And I think just having to leave my house at the beginning, and again, this is way before COVID, obviously, like, but just waking up with a purpose and like having a shower and like look presentable because you're being around other people, even if in 2015 I was a one-person company, like that makes a huge difference. And him just convincing me to do that, and even to this day, as we've grown and we grew into a much bigger space, I brought his company with, and now we flip roles. And so I told him, I don't care how big I get ever, you always have an office in my office, because I always credit him and thank him for, unbeknownst, and he probably just wanted to save money on his rent and have me chip in, but I'll give him the benefit of the doubt and pretend that he was just being a good friend and mentor and guy. And that made a big difference. I think it was like, for credibility, like where clients are like, oh, okay, like he has a real office, and oh, okay, like, whatever it may be, I think, and a landline and like, stuff like that. Like, people don't realize, like, oh, I want to work remote, I want to do all the bullshit, blah, 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 I'm cool, whatever. There's also something to like that lifestyle is cool and all, but there's also something to like, hey, like, I got a landline. Like, I know that sounds stupid, but I think having a landline is a big deal. I don't give a fuck. Like, I really do think it is. That's a pillar of my beliefs. And even if I don't even use it or even know the number of it, I think it's important. And then the second one is, when I was at my old agency, I'd pitched, the owners of Bandon Dunes Golf Resort, and he just didn't. The owner there, they're based in the Hancock, he just didn't vibe with the guy I worked for, and he told me, he's like, hey, like, if you're ever not working for that guy, give me a call. Like, he's like, I like some of your ideas, and I call him. He's probably there were probably 4 other people that had also told me the same thing. And, he's like, hey, like, my sons are starting this big project in Wisconsin called Sand Valley, and you should give them a call. And so I had never worked with a golf course before. I'd worked with a club fitting company that had about locations in about 8 markets. So, and I played golf my whole life. So, I think I just kind of went in with my agency knowledge, but also my consumer knowledge, because I am their consumer, and be like, oh, like, this is what I would do. And this is how much it takes to spend. And like, everything I pitched them, and this is again before the Sand Valley was open. When I was pitching, and when I first was hired by them, they had grass on 3 holes, like seeded grass only on 3 holes. Like, it was like, they hadn't even built a clubhouse. Like, I had started working with them before, when they were in trailers. But I had told them ideas, and this is again the people that own the number 1 golf resort in the world that opened in 1999. And I was telling them stuff that never had been pitched to them in that industry, and I was like, all right, well, like, if we're going back to a Madison, Wisconsin marketing course, like, what I'm telling them is like digital marketing 200, like Monday, Wednesday, Friday with office hours, like, and like, I was like, I didn't think I was hoping it was like, okay, like, it would be like what other people are telling them to do, and then our relationship would be a tiebreaker. Versus like, yeah, they're like, this is amazing, no one's ever told it. I'm like, really? Like, but like, I obviously had to put the straight face on and pretend like, I'm like, oh yes, proprietary ideas.
Talk about Sand Valley Golf Resort for a second, and some of the things you do with them or have done with them throughout the years, so people can get a sense of what you do.
I mean, I could tell you that. I mean, obviously, it's now a top 5 golf resort, whether it's in the world or the country. And I mean, it's one I have so much pride about, because, like I mentioned, the first time I went to the property, first time I was hired, they had grass on 3 holes. They only were working and living out of trailers up there. They had 2 cottages built. I think, and to now where it's at, my creative director designed the logo for Mammoth Dunes, which is their second course there, and it's that logo is by far their best-selling logo in their pro shop, which I guess I probably should have charged some type of residual, but it's all right, because working with them and the Kaiser family who owns it, and it has been so Just so nice and just so beneficial. I mean, look at how beautiful that canvas is right there. And 80 miles straight north of Madison. Like literally straight up the map. And so it's been great where now, we're opening a third course there, third full course. There's also a par 3 course. They're building more hotels. They're constructing a fourth full course. And then we've developed also where we have a full off-season business where now they're hosting like adult and youth pond hockey tournaments.
I saw that image right here.
There's a lot of exactly. It's so cool up there, and you don't really feel like you're in Wisconsin, and it's such a beautiful canvas. I mean, look at that right there. Like even it, right there is it's incredible, and I take great pride because it's something where like, okay, it's not like even some of our other golf clients where it's like, okay, we've taken a property from the beginning and helped with them. We've done logo work with them. We've done website work with their Sand Valley website for them.
I had Wim Hof on the podcast. You have a Wim Hof residency right here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we've also done marketing for like the off-season business, which is a totally different consumer, like of that. And now we're also have evolved where they're selling real estate at the property. So in the same property, I've gone from since, what year is it? 2023. So it's just since 2016, 80 miles north of my college university I went to. We've gone from, we're starting with grass on 3 holes to, logo design, website work, all their digital marketing, their print advertising, the direct mail, their television advertising, and also all their business lines, whether it's golf, resorts, off-season business, and now real estate. Like, I mean, I have so much pride with the property, and it just happened because, I followed through with someone who told me to call them under a different circumstance and think of if I didn't do that, or I was afraid to call, or I wasn't confident in my own abilities when I went on my own, or whatever it is. Like, none of this, I'm not saying like the property wouldn't be where it is, but I'm saying like I wouldn't obviously have the relationship with the property or do what I've done. And so it's a lot of pride, and it's a great lesson for anyone where it's like, hey, if someone tells you to call them. Don't be afraid to call them, or whatever it may be. And it's like, I just have a lot of pride with that property, and it's always going to be my baby, and in professionally.
What, Spencer, we think of, I love talking about unutilized assets, in this case, the off season.
Yeah.
What were they doing before? Just what do most golf courses do? They just do nothing? Like if they're in a cold climate and
nothing. Yeah.
Yeah. Nothing.
Well, yeah. I mean, in this case, like, it's like not all golf courses have great, beautiful hotels and restaurant build outs.
Yeah.
And not all golf courses have this canvas, right? Like where you have these archaic dunes that they discovered in central Wisconsin, and it can be utilized. I mean, whether it's health and wellness retreats, whether it's some sledding things or anything else they have planned, or the pond hockey is incredible. I mean, how many people get to play that are, either adult hockey players or youth hockey players that are going? I don't know how many people outside Chicago, or there's a place called like Johnny's or whatever, where like a lot of adult and youth hockey leagues play in the western part of Chicago, downtown. And it's like, if you get to every week you go there, and it's like, cool, you go to an ice rink and you're playing a game you love, but like to get to play it in like on hockey setting in central Wisconsin, and you also get to stay at a beautiful resort with nice rooms and fireplaces and drinks and food and whatever. It's like, it's cool. Like, it's just different. Right. And it's like, okay, like, yeah, I mean, again, you credit to them and the owners for being entrepreneurial and taking chances like they always have. And you know what? Also, the Kaiser family, they're great people. Like, and they are caring and loyal and fair. And I owe them a lot. Like, and but we have a great professional relationship, and I think part of the reason that they've stuck with me the whole time, and to my knowledge are going to continue to stick with me for a long time, is I also keep it straight with them. And I tell them, sometimes people are afraid to tell other people who are successful the truth, or are afraid to like tell them things that they don't want to hear, or just yes man, and they know I'm not. And so sometimes they'll just call me to hear my opinion on something that has nothing to do with marketing, and because they know like I'll probably give them a perspective they hadn't heard.
First of all, Spencer, thank you. I have one last question. Before I ask it, I want to point
You
people.
can ask me as many questions you want.
Before I ask
Just
it,
because you went to Wisconsin, if you went to Michigan, we're capped.
Yes, that's where my wife went. So.
Oh yeah, she was a cap. You can tell her that. You can say, you know what? I know you at dinner. I know you have a lot of questions. My new man Spencer told me you're only allowed because you went to Michigan.
And then I'll call you like, Spencer, can I sleep on your couch?
Yeah,
And,
no, it's
good. Everyone check out advantagemmrkt.com. Learn more about what they're doing over there. My last question, Spencer, is I'd love to hear just a few of your recommendations of whether it's resources, books, software, just something in your world from a business perspective that you find that you're constantly recommending or it's important for you.
Well, in terms of books, I think it's important to read autobiographies of founders, famous founders, and there's older ones. Obviously, I think there's probably some things that are embellished, or the truth isn't always spun correctly in those. But regardless of what the truth is, that doesn't affect you and how you perceive a story or whatever. Maybe Shoe Dog, which is
one of my favorites. Love it.
Yeah, by Phil Knight, and it's, for those that don't know, it's pretty much his story and his life from childhood through taking Nike public in the mid 80s. So prior to Michael Jordan, prior to what we know Nike as. And I think anyone that's in business or young company or entrepreneur, like, that's where you're going to learn, not like post public, post Michael Jordan. Nike is like, we're not going to learn from that, because that's not what anyone's life's going to be. And if it is, you don't need to read a book, you need to write a book. So I like another one. I think some of the stuff is a little embellished, but One Pour at a Time by Howard Schultz. It's similar to Shoe Dog. It's not as good, but it's very good still. I would recommend that. And I think in general, I think it's just very important to read long form articles and actually read them about industries, about business, about like what I do. I don't really read many advertising and marketing articles because I challenged my team to do that and then report it to me. So, and it's their job to stay up on changes and technology and that. But I love to read just things about different industries.
I love it.
Because one, it's either if we have clients in that industry, it helps us, like we talked about, form the business strategy, forms the marketing strategy, that forms the advertising strategy. But it also, I think there's a lot of lessons that can be learned from other industries and applied to either your industry or your clients' industries. And I think too many people have blinders on, tunnel vision, or don't take themselves out of their everyday industry life and can't get outside perspective. And so I think it's important to purposely seek out outside counsel in
Love it.
that sense.
First of all, Spencer, thank you. Everyone, check out advantagemrkt.com, and we'll see you next time. Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Spencer.
Thank you, Jeremy.
What I got, you can't buy. It resides between my eyes. Walked through the fire, came out better on the other side. See, life's like a beach if you find the sailing right now. I feel like $100 grand.